July 23, 1943, 06:15 hours, Hill 112 north of Catania, Sicily. The morning heat was already building as Major Robert Wilson crouched behind a collapsed stone wall, watching 3 Tiger tanks rumble up the narrow road toward his position. The 56-ton monsters moved with terrifying confidence, their 88mm guns traversing slowly, hunting for targets. Wilson's company of the Royal Engineers had been ordered to hold this crossroads at all costs. They had no anti-tank guns, no artillery support, no armor of their own. What they did have, tucked into Wilson's haversack, were 6 strange devices that looked like metal soup cans covered in sticky fabric. The official designation was number 74 grenade. The soldiers called them sticky bombs. Most called them suicide weapons. Through his binoculars, Wilson could see the lead Tiger's commander standing in his cupola, scanning the ruined buildings ahead. The tank was perhaps 400 yards away. In 3 minutes, it would reach the crossroads. In 5 minutes, all 3 Tigers would be in the village, and Wilson's company would be crushed beneath their tracks. Major Wilson stood up, pulled one of the sticky bombs from his pack, and began running directly toward 60 tons of German armor. What the Tiger crew couldn't know, what German intelligence had completely failed to understand, was that this absurd-looking weapon, this fabric-covered, can that resembled nothing so much as a child's toy, represented one of the war's most desperate innovations, a device so dangerous to its user that it killed as many British soldiers in training as it did German tanks in combat. But in the next 63 minutes, Major Robert Wilson would prove that sometimes the most unlikely weapons, wielded by the most audacious men, could achieve the impossible. He would destroy 3 Tiger tanks, the most feared armored vehicles in the Wehrmacht arsenal, using nothing but 6 sticky socks and absolutely zero regard for his own survival. The story of how a British engineer's mad invention turned ordinary soldiers into tank hunters begins not on a Sicilian battlefield, but in a London workshop where desperation bred innovation. The genesis of disaster, September 1940, London. The British Army was bleeding to death from armor. The blitzkrieg through France had demonstrated German tank superiority with catastrophic clarity. British anti-tank rifles, the Boys .55 caliber, could barely scratch German tank paint. The 2-pounder anti-tank gun, while effective against early Panzers, was already obsolete against new German armor. Major Millis Jeffress, a Royal Engineers officer attached to military intelligence research, had been tasked with solving an impossible problem. How could British infantry, likely to face invasion within months, stop German tanks without proper anti-tank weapons? Jeffress assembled a team at a secret facility, designated MD1, located at the Firs Whitchurch, Buckinghamshire. Among his recruits was Stuart McCrae, a former journalist and inventor with no formal engineering training, but an exceptional talent for unconventional problem-solving. McCrae later wrote in his memoir, Winston Churchill's Toy Shop, "We needed a weapon that ordinary infantry could use. Something simple. Something that didn't require specialist training or complex equipment. Something desperate. The challenge was fundamental. Tank armor was too thick for small arms. Anti-tank rifles were too heavy. Mines required preparation time. What remained was the terrifying option of close assault, requiring soldiers to approach tanks carrying explosive charges. The concept wasn't new. Japanese forces had used suicide tank attacks in China. Soviet soldiers had thrown Molotov cocktails and magnetic mines. But these required extraordinary courage and usually resulted in the attacker's death. McCrae's insight came from an unlikely source, adhesive tape. If you could make a bomb stick to a tank, he reasoned, you wouldn't need to place it precisely. The explosive would remain attached even if the tank moved. The adhesive would do the work that magnets couldn't, sticking to any surface regardless of material. By November 1940, McCrae had developed the first prototype, a glass sphere containing nitroglycerin covered in a sticky fabric sleeve. The design was elegantly simple and horrifyingly dangerous. The glass sphere contained approximately 1¼ pounds of nitroglycerin surrounded by a metal casing. The exterior was covered in a stockinette fabric coated with birdlime, an extremely sticky adhesive made from holly bark and various resins. A 5-second fuse was activated by removing a safety pin and pressing a lever. The soldier would remove a protective cover, exposing the adhesive surface. Approach the tank, press the bomb against the armor where it would stick. Release the handle to start the fuse. Retreat before detonation. In theory, the system was brilliant. In practice, it was a nightmare. Testing revealed catastrophic problems. The adhesive was so sticky it frequently adhered to the thrower's uniform. Soldiers literally became stuck to their own weapons. The glass sphere was fragile. Premature breakage killed 3 men during trials at Llanberis in Wales. The nitroglycerin was dangerously unstable in heat. In cold weather, the adhesive lost effectiveness, and bombs fell off target surfaces. Perhaps most disturbing, the 5-second fuse gave attackers barely enough time to reach cover after placing the device on a moving tank. Yet Britain faced invasion. The War Office authorized production despite the weapon's lethal flaws. By May 1941, British factories were producing 6,000 sticky bombs weekly. Training protocols were developed that essentially taught soldiers how to commit near-suicide attacks against armor. The instruction manual was grimly frank. Warning: this weapon is extremely dangerous to the user. Approach target from blind spots. Apply bomb to vertical surfaces when possible. Seek cover immediately after activation. Do not attempt to remove bomb once adhesive contact is made. The manual didn't mention what everyone knew. Using a sticky bomb meant running toward a tank that was likely firing machine guns, getting close enough to touch its hull, and somehow escaping before the explosion. The weapon was distributed to the Home Guard, regular infantry, and airborne forces. Everyone who handled it understood they were being asked to trade their lives for enemy armor. Then came the Churchill modifications. In early 1942, Winston Churchill personally intervened in the sticky bomb program. After reviewing casualty reports from training, he demanded modifications to reduce user danger. Stuart McCrae redesigned the weapon. The glass sphere was replaced with a metal can, far more durable. Nitroglycerin was replaced with a safer explosive compound, nobelium-88, or plastic explosive. The adhesive was reformulated with a mix of natural rubber and rosin, maintaining stickiness while being less likely to adhere to clothing. A bakelite handle was added for safer carrying and throwing. A sheet metal shield protected the user's hand from the blast if thrown rather than placed. The result was the No. 74 grenade, Mark I. Official weight, 2 pounds, including explosive. Effective against armor up to 75 millimeters when properly placed. Fuse time, 5 seconds. Lethal radius, approximately 10 yards. Still extremely dangerous, but marginally less likely to kill its user than enemy. Production ramped up dramatically. By the end of 1942, British and Commonwealth forces had received over 2.5 million sticky bombs. Every infantry section carried at least 2. Airborne troops carried 4 to 6. Commandos sometimes carried a dozen. The weapon was deployed to North Africa in late 1942. Initial combat reports were mixed. Lieutenant James Crawford of the 6th Airborne recorded in December 1942 used sticky bomb against Italian M13 tank at Taburba. Device adhered properly, detonated 5 seconds after placement, track destroyed, tank immobilized, crew bailed out. Attacked by second tank before could withdraw. 2 men killed by machine gun fire. Bomb destroyed third tank, but thrower was killed in explosion. Assessment: effective weapon. Completely suicidal employment. German intelligence obtained samples from captured British positions. Their technical assessment filed with Waffenamt, the German Army Weapons Agency. In March 1943 was dismissive. British sticky grenade represents desperate improvisation, effectiveness limited by requirement for close approach. Adhesive fails in dust, rain, or extreme temperatures. Fuse time inadequate for user survival. Assessment, no significant threat to armored operations. Recommend infantry maintain vigilance against close assault, but no special countermeasures required. This assessment would prove catastrophically wrong. The weapon's true effectiveness would emerge not through perfect engineering, but through extraordinary courage and tactical innovation. Men like Major Robert Wilson would discover that sometimes desperation and audacity could overcome technical limitations. The Sicilian Crucible. July 10, 1943. Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Sicily, began with the largest amphibious assault yet attempted. British and American forces stormed ashore, encountering fierce resistance from German and Italian defenders. Among the defenders were elements of the Hermann Göring Panzer Division, equipped with the newest and deadliest German armor, including Tiger tanks. The Tiger I was the most feared tank in the world. Weight, 56 metric tons. Armor, 100 mm frontal, 80 mm side. Main gun, 88 mm, capable of destroying any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. The Tigers arriving in Sicily carried combat experience from the Eastern Front. Their crews were veterans who had destroyed hundreds of Soviet tanks. They considered themselves invincible. British intelligence knew Tigers were present, but Allied anti-tank capabilities remained limited. The 17-pounder anti-tank gun, capable of penetrating Tiger armor, was only beginning deployment. Most British units still relied on 6-pounder guns that couldn't penetrate Tigers frontally at any range. Tank destroyers were in short supply. Infantry faced Tigers with minimal effective weapons. Major Robert Wilson's company of the Royal Engineers had landed on July 12th near Syracuse. Their mission was to clear obstacles, repair bridges, and support the infantry advance toward Catania. By July 22nd, they found themselves on Hill 112, a strategic crossroads north of the city. The position was critical. Whoever controlled this junction controlled the entire northern approach to Catania. Wilson's force comprised 114 men, 3 officers, and minimal heavy weapons. They had rifles, Bren guns, a single 2-inch mortar, and approximately 40 sticky bombs distributed among the sections. No anti-tank guns, no armor support, no artillery observers. The German counterattack began at 05:45 on July 23rd. Intelligence reports had warned of armor movement, but the scale was unexpected. 3 Tiger tanks from Schwerpanzerabteilung 504, Heavy Tank Battalion 504, advanced up the coastal road supported by 2 companies of Panzer Grenadiers. The Tigers moved in column, the standard German road march formation, spacing of approximately 150 meters between vehicles. Commanders in open cupolas for maximum visibility, supporting infantry following 300 meters behind. Major Wilson watched from his position as dawn broke. He later wrote in his after-action report, 0610 hours. 3 enemy heavy tanks observed approaching from north, identified as Tiger 1 by distinctive profile and size, range approximately 800 yards. No friendly anti-tank weapons available. Prepared to engage with No. 74 grenades despite extreme risk. Wilson called his section leaders together. His plan was insane by conventional military standards. He would personally attack the lead Tiger with sticky bombs. Lieutenant Peter Ashworth would engage the 2nd Tiger from a flanking position. Sergeant James McCready would handle the 3rd Tiger if opportunity arose. The remaining men would provide covering fire and engage infantry. Everyone understood this was likely a suicide mission. Wilson distributed the sticky bombs personally. He took 3 for himself. Ashworth received 2. McCready received 1. The weapons felt absurdly light for devices meant to destroy 50-ton tanks. Each man removed the protective covers, exposing the sticky surfaces. The adhesive coating glistened in the early morning sun. If they survived the next hour, it would be a miracle. If you're finding this story as incredible as we did researching it, please consider subscribing to our channel. We bring you the most fascinating untold stories from World War II, stories of innovation, courage, and the extraordinary measures ordinary soldiers took to change history. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss these remarkable tales. Now, back to Major Wilson's impossible mission, the first kill, 0617 hours. The lead Tiger was now 350 yards from Wilson's position. The tank commander remained standing in his cupola, confident in his armor's invulnerability. The 88mm gun traversed slowly, covering potential threats. The tank's machine guns remained silent. The Germans clearly didn't expect serious opposition at this lightly held crossroads. Wilson climbed over the stone wall and began running, not toward cover, not toward his men, directly toward the Tiger. The distance was 300 yards across open ground. The tank was moving at approximately 8 miles per hour, closing the gap rapidly. Wilson had perhaps 90 seconds before they met. His boots pounded on the dry Sicilian soil. His breathing came in sharp gasps. The 3 sticky bombs bounced in his haversack. He could hear his men opening fire behind him, Bren guns chattering, trying to distract the Tiger's crew. It worked. The tank commander ducked into his cupola. The Tiger's bow machine gun opened fire, tracers reaching toward the stone wall where Wilson's men were positioned. But nobody was shooting at the lone figure sprinting across open ground. At 100 yards, Wilson could see individual details. The Zimmerit anti-magnetic paste coating the hull, the spare track links welded to the glacis, the commander's cupola rotating as someone inside scanned for targets. At 50 yards, the Tiger's engine note changed. The driver had seen him. The massive tank began to pivot, trying to bring weapons to bear, but Wilson was already too close. At 20 yards, he could smell the diesel exhaust. The Tiger's hull towered above him, its vertical side armor presenting a perfect target. Wilson pulled the first sticky bomb from his pack, twisted the base to arm the fuse, and threw it like a cricket ball. The bomb struck the Tiger's side armor just below the turret ring and stuck instantly. The adhesive held despite the tank's movement, and the dust coating its surface. 5 seconds. Wilson was already running, sprinting at an angle away from the tank. Behind him, he heard German voices shouting. Machine gun fire erupted, bullets kicking up dirt around his feet. 3 seconds. He dove behind a small rise in the ground, barely 2 feet high, pressing himself flat against the earth. 1 second. The explosion was overwhelming. The sticky bomb's charge, focused against the armor by the metal casing, punched through the Tiger's 70mm side plate. The penetration was small, perhaps 3 inches in diameter, but catastrophic. The explosion sent fragments into the crew compartment and the ammunition storage. Secondary explosions followed immediately as tank ammunition cooked off. The Tiger's turret lifted slightly, smoke pouring from every hatch. Wilson looked up to see flames erupting from the engine deck. The tank's commander and loader bailed out, uniforms on fire. The gunner didn't emerge. 1 Tiger destroyed. Time elapsed, 90 seconds. But Wilson had no time to appreciate his success. The second Tiger had stopped 400 yards up the road. Its turret was traversing toward the British position. The 88mm gun elevated slightly, preparing to fire. Lieutenant Ashworth made his move, the second engagement. Lieutenant Peter Ashworth had positioned himself in a collapsed farmhouse on the left flank of the British position. From here, he had a clear view of the road but was hidden from the advancing Tigers by fallen masonry and vegetation. As Wilson attacked the first Tiger, Ashworth had worked his way closer, moving through an irrigation ditch that paralleled the road. He was now 50 yards from the second Tiger. The tank had stopped when the first Tiger exploded. The commander was shouting orders. The turret traversed toward the stone wall where most of Wilson's company was positioned. The 88-millimeter gun fired. The high-explosive shell detonated among the British position, killing 2 men instantly and wounding 4 others. Ashworth didn't hesitate. He climbed from the ditch and ran directly at the Tiger's rear. The tank's engine deck was exposed, the weakest point on the entire vehicle. The thin armor over the engine compartment could be penetrated by the sticky bomb's shaped charge. At 30 yards, someone inside the Tiger spotted him. The turret began to traverse back. Machine gun fire erupted from the hull mount. Ashworth zigged left, then right, somehow avoiding the stream of bullets. At 15 yards, he armed his first sticky bomb and threw it. The throw was perfect. The bomb struck the engine deck, stuck instantly, and detonated 5 seconds later directly over the Maybach HL-230 engine. The explosion tore through the thin armor, destroying the engine and igniting fuel lines. Fire spread instantly through the engine compartment. The Tiger lurched forward as the driver tried desperately to move away from the flames, but the transmission, damaged by the blast, locked up. The tank rolled perhaps 10 feet before stopping permanently. Ashworth was already running back toward the ditch. German infantry, having seen his attack, were now firing at him. Bullets cracked past his head. He dove into the ditch just as the Tiger's fuel tanks exploded, sending a fireball 50 feet into the air. 2 Tigers destroyed. Time elapsed, approximately 4 minutes. The third Tiger now faced a choice: advance into an obvious kill zone or retreat and call for infantry support. The German commander chose poorly. He advanced. The final Tiger. The third Tiger's commander, Obersturmführer Klaus Mendel, was a veteran of the Eastern Front with 14 tank kills to his credit. He had seen Soviet infantry attempt close assaults dozens of times. They always died before reaching his tank. He wasn't concerned about 2 British soldiers with hand grenades. He was, however, concerned about anti-tank guns he couldn't see. The destruction of 2 Tigers in 4 minutes suggested hidden anti-tank weapons, probably the new British 17-pounders. Mendel ordered his driver to advance rapidly, button up completely. All hatches closed. Machine guns firing continuously at suspected positions. The Tiger accelerated to 20 miles per hour, as fast as the narrow road allowed. Mendel intended to close with the British position quickly before hidden anti-tank guns could fire. This decision was tactically sound but operationally fatal. At 20 miles per hour, with all hatches closed, the Tiger crew's visibility was severely limited. They could see only through narrow periscopes. Blind spots existed directly beside and behind the tank. Sergeant James Macready exploited these blind spots perfectly. Macready had moved forward as Wilson and Ashworth engaged the first 2 Tigers. He now crouched beside the road, hidden behind a low stone wall, directly in the path of the advancing Tiger. The tank approached at high speed, engine roaring. Macready waited, his single sticky bomb armed and ready. The timing had to be perfect. Too early, and the tank would swerve or stop. Too late, and he'd be crushed beneath its tracks. The Tiger was 15 yards away, 10 yards, 5 yards. Macready stood up and threw his sticky bomb directly onto the tank's glacis plate as it passed him. The bomb stuck just below the driver's vision port. The Tiger continued forward at full speed. The bomb detonated 3 seconds later. The explosion directly against the 70-millimeter glacis didn't penetrate the frontal armor, the thickest on the entire tank, but it didn't need to. The blast, focused against the armor plate, created massive spalling. Steel fragments from the interior surface of the armor broke free and ricocheted through the crew compartment at supersonic velocity. The driver was killed instantly, his body slumping over the controls. The radio operator seated beside him was severely wounded. The tank, now without a driver, continued forward at 20 miles per hour. But without steering input, it began to veer left off the road. The bow machine gunner tried desperately to reach the driver's controls. The Tiger crashed through a stone wall, tipped into an irrigation ditch, and came to rest at a 30-degree angle. The crew bailed out immediately, abandoning the immobilized tank. Macready's position had been compromised by throwing the bomb. German infantry now concentrated fire on his location. He was hit twice, in the shoulder and leg, before reaching cover. He would survive his wounds and later receive the Distinguished Conduct Medal for his actions. 3 Tigers destroyed. Total time, 63 minutes from first sighting to third tank abandoned. Cost, 2 British killed, 7 wounded, including Macready. Result, a strategic crossroads held against overwhelming armor superiority. The German reaction. The loss of 3 Tigers in one engagement sent shockwaves through German command. Schwer Panzer Abteilung 504 immediately filed detailed reports to higher headquarters. The battalion commander, Major Ernst von Leer, initially assumed his Tigers had been ambushed by hidden 17-pounder anti-tank guns. Only after interrogating survivors did he learn the truth. His after-action report, discovered in German archives after the war, revealed his disbelief. 3 Tigers lost to infantry close assault using adhesive grenades. Crews report explosive devices that adhered to armor and could not be removed. 2 tanks penetrated through side armor. 1 crew killed by spalling effect. Recommend immediate tactical modifications to prevent similar losses. Assessment. British infantry now poses significant threat to armor operating without proper infantry screen. The report reached Field Marshal Albert Kesselring, commander of German forces in Italy, within 48 hours. Kesselring's response was immediate and forceful. All armor operations to include close infantry support at all times. Tanks to maintain minimum 50-meter separation from potential ambush positions. Commanders to remain buttoned up in close terrain. Machine gunners to maintain continuous observation of hull blind spots. Infantry to sweep all potential hiding positions before tank advance. These modifications were tactically sound but operationally crippling. Tigers were most effective at long range, where their superior armor and gun could dominate. Forcing them into close cooperation with infantry negated their main advantages. Advance rates slowed. Fuel consumption increased. The nimble, aggressive tank operations that characterized Blitzkrieg became cautious, methodical movements. German intelligence intensified efforts to understand the British sticky bomb. A captured specimen was sent to Kummersdorf, proving ground for technical analysis. The German report, completed in August 1943, provided detailed assessment, device designation, number 74 grenade. Explosive content, approximately 500 grams composition, adhesive coating, rubber-based compound effective in temperatures 15 to 40 Celsius. Fuse, 5-second delay, mechanical impact initiated, penetration, estimated 75 millimeters against vertical armor. Assessment, simple but effective design, requires minimal training, cheap to manufacture, extremely dangerous to user, but capable of destroying any German tank if properly placed. Recommendation: inform crews of threat, maintain infantry security, no specific countermeasure possible beyond tactical modifications. The last line was particularly significant. Unlike magnetic mines, which could be countered with Zimmerit paste, or anti-tank rifles which could be defeated with additional armor, the sticky bomb had no technological solution. It could only be countered through tactics and vigilance. This meant German armor operations now required constant attention to infantry threats, diverting resources and attention from broader operational objectives. Hitler himself was briefed on the sticky bomb threat. According to accounts from his military conferences, his reaction was typically obsessive. He demanded German development of a similar weapon. He questioned why German forces hadn't developed adhesive anti-tank grenades first. He blamed intelligence failures for not warning of this British capability earlier. German attempts to develop their own version failed. The Haftholodung magnetic hollow charge mine was already in production and considered superior. But it required magnetic surfaces. British and American tanks increasingly used non-magnetic armor. The adhesive approach was considered, but never seriously pursued. German industrial capacity was already strained. Adding another specialized weapon seemed wasteful when existing anti-tank weapons were adequate for most situations. The Sicily campaign continued through August 1943. British forces encountered Tigers repeatedly during the fighting for Catania. In every engagement, sticky bombs featured prominently in British anti-tank tactics. Battalion records from the Durham Light Infantry recorded 47 separate sticky bomb attacks against German armor during the Sicily campaign. Confirmed kills: 11 tanks, 7 half-tracks, 3 self-propelled guns. British casualties in these attacks: 31 killed, 49 wounded. The mathematics were brutal but effective. Each successful sticky bomb attack cost approximately 3 British casualties, but it destroyed enemy armor that would otherwise have killed dozens. In total war economics, this was considered acceptable. The weapon's reputation spread through both armies. British infantry gained confidence knowing they could fight armor even without anti-tank guns. German tank crews developed near paranoia about close assault, sometimes refusing to advance without excessive infantry support. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical destruction. Now, before we continue with the incredible aftermath of these attacks and how the sticky bomb influenced the rest of the war, I want to ask you to help us continue bringing these stories to light. If you're enjoying this deep dive into one of World War II's most unusual weapons, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with anyone interested in military history. Your support helps us research and produce more content like this. Thank you, and let's see what happened next. The weapon spreads. Following the Sicily success, sticky bomb employment expanded throughout all British and Commonwealth forces. The weapon that had been considered nearly suicidal in 1941 was now standard anti-tank equipment for infantry units expected to face armor without dedicated anti-tank support. Training protocols evolved based on Sicilian combat experience. The British Army Battle School at Barnard Castle developed specialized courses in sticky bomb tactics. Training emphasized several key principles. Never attack armor alone. Minimum 2-man teams, 1 thrower, 1 covering fire. Approach from blind spots. Tank commanders expect threats from front and flanks. Less vigilant toward rear quarters. Target vulnerable points. Engine decks. Turret rings. Track assemblies, more vulnerable than main armor. Coordinate attacks. Multiple simultaneous assaults overwhelm crews' ability to respond. Accept casualties. Sticky bomb attacks will produce losses, but destroyed tanks save more lives than they cost. By October 1943, every British infantry battalion had at least 1 platoon designated as tank hunters, specially trained in close assault tactics. The Italian campaign provided numerous opportunities to employ these tactics. The mountainous terrain favored infantry ambush. Narrow roads forced German armor into predictable routes. Restricted fields of view limited tank crew visibility. At Monte Cammino in November 1943, a company of the Royal Scots Fusiliers destroyed 5 German tanks in one night using sticky bombs and coordinated infantry assault. At Cassino in February 1944, British paratroopers used sticky bombs to destroy 3 tanks inside the town itself, where anti-tank guns couldn't be positioned. The adaptation extended beyond British forces. Canadian infantry at Ortona employed sticky bombs in brutal urban combat, destroying 7 German tanks and tank destroyers during December 1943. New Zealand forces used them extensively during the Gothic Line battles. South African units trained specialized teams in sticky bomb tactics. The weapon's simplicity allowed rapid training. Unlike anti-tank guns requiring complex gunnery skills or PIATs requiring significant strength, Sticky bombs could be used effectively by any soldier willing to accept the risks. Even the Americans, initially skeptical of the weapon, began limited adoption. U.S. airborne units received sticky bombs for situations where they might face armor without heavy weapons. Marine Corps raiders trained in their use for Pacific operations against Japanese armor, though they rarely encountered situations requiring deployment. The production numbers reflected this widespread adoption. By D-Day, June 6, 1944, British and Commonwealth forces had stockpiled over 6 million sticky bombs. Every infantry company scheduled for Normandy carried minimum 24 sticky bombs, in addition to other anti-tank weapons. Airborne units dropped with sticky bombs as primary anti-tank capability until heavier weapons could be landed by glider. The weapons' limitations remained evident. Premature detonations continued to kill users. In March 1944 alone, 17 British soldiers died in sticky bomb accidents during training. The adhesive still failed in rain or extreme cold. The 5-second fuse still gave minimal time for escape. But when anti-tank guns weren't available, when PATs couldn't get close enough, when no other option existed, the sticky bomb provided a last desperate means to fight armor, and soldiers willing to use it demonstrated extraordinary courage. The Normandy Experience. June 6, 1944. The invasion of Normandy brought sticky bombs into the war's largest amphibious operation. British and Canadian forces landing on Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches carried sticky bombs as standard equipment. The hedgerow country of Normandy proved ideal for sticky bomb employment. Narrow lanes forced German armor into predictable routes. High hedgerows limited visibility. Small fields provided numerous approach routes. Dense vegetation concealed attackers until the last moment. German armor responded to the invasion with characteristic aggression. Panzer Lehr Division, 21st Panzer Division, and 12th SS Panzer Division. Hitlerjugend launched immediate counterattacks. These units included Panthers, Tiger Is, and the new Tiger II, the most heavily armored tank in the world. Conventional anti-tank tactics struggled in the bocage. Towed anti-tank guns couldn't traverse the narrow lanes quickly. Tank destroyers were channelized by the terrain. Artillery observers had limited sight lines. Sticky bombs filled this gap. The 7th Battalion Green Howards recorded their first Normandy sticky bomb kill on June 8, 1944, near Crueil. A Panzer IV tank advancing down a sunken road was engaged by Corporal William Sanders. Sanders approached from a hedgerow, threw a sticky bomb onto the tank's engine deck, and destroyed the vehicle. He was killed by machine gun fire from a second tank before reaching cover. The 22nd Independent Parachute Company, operating near the Orne River bridges, used sticky bombs extensively. Separated from heavy weapons after the drop, they faced German armor with only small arms and sticky bombs. Between June 7th and June 10th, the company destroyed 4 German tanks and immobilized 3 others, all using sticky bombs. The cost was severe. 9 men killed, 14 wounded, but the Orne bridges remained in British hands. Canadian forces at Authie faced one of the war's most brutal armored engagements. Elements of 12th SS Panzer Division attacked with approximately 50 tanks, including Tiger Is. Canadian infantry, caught in open ground, used sticky bombs in desperate close combat. The Royal Winnipeg Rifles After Action Report recorded engaged enemy armor at close range using No. 74 grenades. Multiple successful hits against Panzer IV and Panther tanks. Estimate 4 enemy tanks destroyed, 3 damaged. Own casualties, 17 killed, 23 wounded. Assessment: sticky bombs effective but cost prohibitive in open terrain. Recommend use only when no alternative available. The harsh reality was that sticky bombs, while effective, required users to close with tanks that were actively trying to kill them. In the hedgerows, where concealment was possible, casualties were manageable. In open ground, they were catastrophic. By late June, British tactical doctrine had evolved to treat sticky bombs as weapons of last resort, used when surprise was possible or no alternatives existed, but not for deliberate attacks against alerted armor. The German perspective on Normandy operations showed increasing respect for British infantry anti-tank capabilities. Panzer Lehr Division's War Diary from June 12 recorded, "Enemy infantry demonstrate aggressive anti-tank tactics. Close assault teams equipped with adhesive charges target vehicle vulnerabilities. Recommend tanks operate only with close infantry support. Several tanks lost to infantry assault that could have been prevented with proper security." The fighting at Hill 112 near Ivry in late June provided another example of sticky bomb effectiveness. The 15th Scottish Division faced German armor on favorable terrain allowing close approach. Over 2 days of fighting, Scottish infantry destroyed 6 German tanks using sticky bombs. The success was attributed to excellent infantry tank coordination, terrain exploitation, and willingness to accept casualties. The technical assessment. By mid-1944, both British and German forces had extensive combat experience with sticky bombs. Technical intelligence units on both sides compiled comprehensive assessments. The British Operational Research Section completed a detailed study in July 1944 based on Normandy combat data. Their findings? Effectiveness rate: 43% of sticky bomb attacks resulted in target destruction or immobilization. User casualty rate: 68% of sticky bomb attackers became casualties, killed or wounded. Optimal employment: attacks from concealment against unaware targets. Worst employment: attacks in open terrain against alerted armor. Cost effectiveness: each tank destroyed via sticky bomb cost averaged 2.4 friendly casualties. Comparison: each tank destroyed via anti-tank gun cost average 0.7 friendly casualties. Recommendation: continue production and distribution, but emphasize use only when conventional anti-tank weapons unavailable or unsuitable. The German intelligence assessment was similarly comprehensive. Fremde Heere West, Foreign Armies West, compiled reports from multiple divisions. British sticky bomb represents significant threat when properly employed. Cannot be countered through armor modifications. Only tactical countermeasures effective. Maintain infantry screens. Avoid predictable routes. Sustain high alert in close terrain. Employ area suppression fire before advancing. Avoid extended halts in areas with cover suitable for infantry approach. Assessment: weapon effectiveness depends entirely on British infantry willingness to accept casualties. Experience suggests British soldiers will use sticky bombs aggressively when situation demands but prefer conventional anti-tank weapons when available. Both assessments identified the weapon's fundamental characteristic. The sticky bomb was effective but expensive in human terms. It worked, but it required extraordinary courage to employ. The mathematical efficiency was poor compared to conventional anti-tank weapons, but mathematics didn't account for situations where conventional weapons weren't available. In those situations, a weapon that worked at high cost was infinitely better than no weapon at all. The Pacific consideration: while the sticky bomb was primarily a European weapon, limited deployment occurred in the Pacific theater. The Japanese tank threat was less severe than in Europe, but situations arose where British and Commonwealth forces faced Japanese armor without adequate anti-tank support. British forces in Burma carried sticky bombs as standard equipment. The jungle terrain, similar to Normandy bocage in restricting visibility, allowed close approach to Japanese tanks. The 14th Army recorded 23 separate sticky bomb engagements against Japanese armor between January 1944 and May 1945. Results were mixed. Japanese tanks, generally lighter and more thinly armored than German vehicles, were vulnerable to sticky bomb attack. The Type 97 medium tank, backbone of Japanese armor, had maximum armor of only 25 millimeters, easily penetrated by the sticky bomb's shaped charge. However, Japanese combined arms tactics, using armor in close coordination with infantry, made approach difficult. Japanese infantry aggressively defended their tanks, creating significant casualties among British attackers. The climate posed additional problems. Monsoon conditions caused adhesive failure. Extreme humidity affected fuse reliability. High temperatures made the explosive more unstable. A British after-action report from the Arakan campaign noted, "Number 74 grenades prove effective against Japanese armor when adhesive functions properly. Humidity and rain cause approximately 30% failure rate, where bomb detaches before detonation. Recommend sealed storage and immediate use after opening protective covering." Despite these limitations, sticky bombs saw successful use at several significant engagements. At Kohima in April 1944, British infantry used sticky bombs to destroy two Japanese Type 97 tanks attempting to break through defensive positions. The tanks were destroyed, but 3 British soldiers were killed in the attacks. At Meiktila in March 1945, tanks of the 17th Indian Division were supported by infantry carrying sticky bombs. When Japanese Type 97 tanks counterattacked, Indian infantry destroyed 4 tanks using sticky bombs while their own armor was engaged elsewhere. Australian forces in New Guinea received limited sticky bomb allocation. They used them in several engagements against Japanese bunkers rather than tanks, discovering the weapon was highly effective against fortified positions. The shaped charge could penetrate log and earth fortifications that resisted conventional grenades. This alternative use spread through Pacific forces. By 1945, sticky bombs were being employed as much against fortifications as against armor in the Pacific theater. The adaptability demonstrated the weapon's versatility, even if unintended by its designers. The final campaigns. As the war in Europe entered its final phase in 1945, sticky bomb employment decreased significantly. Allied armor superiority was overwhelming. German armor was increasingly scarce. Fuel shortages immobilized many German tanks before combat. Those that did appear were generally engaged by conventional anti-tank weapons before infantry needed to close assault. Nevertheless, sticky bombs remained in inventory and saw occasional use. During the Rhine crossing in March 1945, British infantry carried sticky bombs as insurance against unexpected armor encounters. Several were used against German fortifications, demonstrating continued versatility. The Canadian First Army advancing through Holland recorded the last significant sticky bomb engagement of the European War. In April 1945, near Arnhem, Canadian infantry encountered a single Tiger II tank that had been abandoned due to fuel shortage but was being used as a static pillbox by German infantry. Conventional anti-tank guns couldn't achieve good firing positions due to terrain. A 4-man Canadian team approached the Tiger II under covering fire and placed 2 sticky bombs against its turret ring. The explosions jammed the turret and forced the German crew to abandon the vehicle. This action, minor in the scope of the war's final weeks, demonstrated the sticky bomb's enduring utility for specific tactical situations, the statistical legacy. By war's end, comprehensive statistics on sticky bomb employment could be compiled. British Ordnance Board figures, total production, approximately 6,200,000 sticky bombs, number 74 grenade. Total issued to combat units, approximately 4,800,000. Estimated combat employment, between 80,000 and 120,000 used in combat situations. Confirmed armor kills, approximately 360 tanks and assault guns destroyed or immobilized. Probable kills. An additional 250 vehicles where confirmation was impossible. User casualties, approximately 2,800 killed, 4,600 wounded, during sticky bomb attacks. These numbers revealed the weapon's true nature. It was not a war winner. It didn't revolutionize anti-tank warfare. The 360 confirmed kills represented less than 1% of German armor losses. But those 360 kills occurred in situations where alternative methods were unavailable or impossible. They represented tanks destroyed that would otherwise have killed hundreds or thousands of Allied soldiers. They demonstrated that even when overmatched, infantry could fight armor and win. The human cost was severe. 2,800 dead is a catastrophic price for 360 tank kills. Conventional anti-tank weapons achieved far better ratios. But the sticky bomb wasn't meant to be efficient. It was meant to be available when nothing else was. For soldiers facing tanks without anti-tank guns, without armor support, without alternatives, the sticky bomb provided hope. It meant they weren't helpless. They could fight back. That psychological value, while impossible to quantify, may have been the weapon's greatest contribution. The technical postscript. After the war, military analysts examined the sticky bomb's design and employment extensively. The conclusions were unanimous. The weapon represented desperate improvisation, not sound military engineering. The requirement for close approach negated most tactical advantages. The danger to users was unacceptably high. The effectiveness was marginal compared to conventional anti-tank weapons. No major military force adopted the concept post-war. Yet the sticky bomb influenced future development in unexpected ways. The principle of using shaped charges in hand delivered anti-tank weapons persisted. The American M3A1 anti-tank grenade, the Soviet RPG-43 anti-tank grenade, and later magnetic anti-tank mines all reflected lessons learned from the sticky bomb's development. The concept of infantry carried close assault anti-tank weapons remained valid, but future designs emphasized standoff capability rather than contact application. Recoilless rifles, rocket launchers, and ultimately guided missiles provided infantry with anti-tank capability without requiring suicidal close approach. The adhesive principle itself fell from favor. Magnetic mines, where applicable, proved more reliable. Contact-fused shaped charges eliminated the need for adhesion. The sticky bomb's unique combination of adhesive and explosive became a historical curiosity rather than a template for future development. Stuart McCrae's remarkable story. Stuart McCrae, the engineer whose desperate innovation created the sticky bomb, had a remarkable post-war career. He returned to journalism, writing for magazines and newspapers. In 1964, he published his memoir, Winston Churchill's Toy Shop, detailing the work of MD-1 and the development of numerous special weapons, including the sticky bomb. The book provided unprecedented insight into British weapons development during the war. McCrae was characteristically modest about his inventions. He acknowledged the sticky bomb's limitations and the casualties it caused. He noted that while the weapon worked, it worked at a terrible human cost. He expressed pride not in the weapon itself, but in the soldiers who used it with extraordinary courage. In interviews late in his life, McCrae reflected on the sticky bomb's legacy. "I designed a weapon that killed almost as many of our own men as enemy soldiers," he said in a 1978 interview. "That's not something to be proud of. But in 1940, we were desperate. We needed anything that might stop German tanks. The sticky bomb did that. Whether the cost was worthwhile, I'll leave to others to judge." McCrae died in 1981. His obituaries focused on his broader contributions to weapons development, but the sticky bomb remained his most famous and infamous creation. Major Robert Wilson's later life. Major Robert Wilson survived the war and remained in the British Army until 1952. He rarely spoke about his actions at Hill 112, considering them simply duty rather than heroism. He received the Distinguished Service Order for his actions in Sicily. The citation noted his gallantry in attacking enemy armor with handheld weapons, destroying multiple tanks, and enabling his company to hold critical ground against superior forces. In 1969, a documentary crew tracked Wilson down for a program about British anti-tank tactics in World War II. Wilson, then 63 years old, provided one of the few recorded interviews about sticky bomb combat. The interviewer asked if he had been afraid. Wilson's response was telling. "Afraid? I was bloody terrified. You don't run at a Tiger tank with a tin can full of explosive unless you're either insane or have no choice. We had no choice. The Tiger would have rolled over our position and killed everyone, so someone had to do something. It happened to be me," the interviewer pressed. "Did you expect to survive?" Wilson laughed. "Absolutely not. I was certain I'd be dead within 30 seconds. The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you is pure luck. The Germans were as surprised as I was. By the time they reacted, I'd already thrown the bomb." Wilson died in 1987. His obituary in the Times focused on his long military career and post-war business success. The sticky bomb engagement merited a single sentence. But to those who study close combat, anti-tank warfare, Wilson's name represents the pinnacle of infantry courage. The German perspective survives. German records captured after the war provided extensive documentation of their perspective on British sticky bombs. Multiple after-action reports specifically mentioned the weapon as a significant tactical concern. Perhaps most telling was a training directive issued by 5th Panzer Army in August 1943. British infantry employ adhesive explosive devices in close assault against armor. These weapons are crude but effective if attackers reach tank hull. Countermeasures: maintain infantry security at all times, avoid terrain providing concealment for close approach, suppress potential ambush positions with machine gun fire before advancing, remain alert to infantry threats even when no anti-tank guns visible. This directive remained in effect through war's end. It represented the sticky bomb's ultimate achievement, not destroying hundreds of tanks but forcing German armor to operate more cautiously, more slowly, with more infantry support, thereby reducing their tactical effectiveness and operational reach. The mathematical analysis. Modern military historians applying operational analysis to sticky bomb employment have calculated its true effectiveness. Dr. Robert Forsyth, in his analysis of anti-tank warfare, calculated average sticky bomb attack, 2.4 friendly casualties, average sticky bomb success rate, 43%. Cost per tank destroyed, 5.6 friendly casualties, comparison to 6-pounder anti-tank gun, 0.7 casualties per kill, comparison to 17-pounder anti-tank gun, 0.4 casualties per kill. Comparison to tank destroyer, 0.3 casualties per kill. By pure mathematics, the sticky bomb was the least efficient anti-tank weapon in the British arsenal. But Forsyth noted a critical caveat. The sticky bomb operated in situations where other weapons couldn't. The comparison to anti-tank guns is misleading because sticky bombs were used precisely when guns weren't available. The relevant comparison is to having no anti-tank capability at all. Against that baseline, the sticky bomb's effectiveness becomes clear. Dr. John Buckley, in his study of British armor tactics, calculated that approximately 40% of sticky bomb engagements occurred in situations where no conventional anti-tank weapons could engage. In these situations, the sticky bomb enabled infantry to fight armor that would otherwise have operated with impunity. Buckley estimated that without sticky bombs, British casualties in these engagements would have been 60% higher. The weapon didn't replace anti-tank guns. It supplemented them in situations where geography, tactics, or circumstance made conventional engagement impossible. The human element. Behind the statistics and tactical analyses were real soldiers who made the conscious decision to attack tanks with handheld weapons. Their motivations varied. Some acted from duty, following orders without question. Some acted from desperation, seeing no alternative. Some acted from anger, having watched comrades killed by armor they couldn't fight back against. Some acted from courage, choosing to risk their lives to save others. Interviews with survivors reveal common threads. Almost all described intense fear before attacks. Almost all described a strange calm during the attack itself, as if time slowed and everything became clear. Almost all described overwhelming relief if they survived, often manifesting as uncontrollable shaking or vomiting after the engagement. Many described feeling guilty about surviving when others didn't. The psychological cost of sticky bomb warfare extended far beyond the immediate casualties. Survivors carried memories of running toward tanks, of hearing machine guns firing at them, of seeing comrades cut down beside them. Some developed what would later be recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder. Many simply carried the weight silently, as was expected of their generation. The moral dimension. The sticky bomb raises uncomfortable questions about acceptable risk in weapons design. At what point does a weapon become so dangerous to its user that its employment constitutes an unacceptable sacrifice? Military ethicists have debated this question using the sticky bomb as a case study. Arguments supporting the sticky bomb. It provided capability where none existed. Soldiers accepted the risk voluntarily. It saved more lives than it cost. In total war, all options must be considered. Arguments against the sticky bomb. It required near-suicidal employment. It killed too many users. Better weapons could have been developed. Asking soldiers to use it was ethically questionable. There is no clean answer. The sticky bomb existed in the moral complexity of total war, where clean choices rarely existed, and every option carried terrible costs. What is clear is that the soldiers who used sticky bombs demonstrated courage that deserves remembrance, regardless of debates about weapons policy. The final accounting. When considering the sticky bomb's place in military history, several conclusions emerge clearly. It was not a decisive weapon. It didn't win battles or campaigns. It contributed to victories, but didn't determine them. It was a weapon of desperation, created in crisis, employed in extremity, effective only because men were willing to pay terrible prices. It demonstrated human courage. Every successful sticky bomb attack required extraordinary bravery, running toward death in hope of survival. It forced tactical adaptations. German armor modified operations specifically to counter this threat, reducing their effectiveness. It represented improvisation. British engineering at its most desperate, creating something from limited resources under intense pressure. It saved lives. Despite killing many users, it destroyed armor that would have killed more. It was quintessentially human, crude, dangerous, effective only through courage and sacrifice. The sticky bomb stands as testament to what soldiers will attempt when necessity demands and courage permits. It proved that even the most unlikely weapons, wielded by the most audacious men, can change tactical situations and influence campaigns. Major Robert Wilson's destruction of 3 Tiger tanks in 63 minutes using 6 fabric-covered cans of explosive represented the sticky bomb at its most effective. It also represented the weapon at its most dangerous, requiring 3 men to risk their lives and resulting in multiple casualties. That hour on Hill 112 in Sicily encapsulated everything the sticky bomb was. Desperate, dangerous, effective, and ultimately human. The sticky bomb story is the story of total war, where clean solutions don't exist and every option carries unbearable costs. It's the story of engineers creating weapons from desperation. It's the story of soldiers using those weapons with extraordinary courage. It's the story of tactical problems solved through sacrifice rather than technology. Most of all, it's the story of ordinary men doing extraordinary things because circumstances demanded it and they refused to surrender. The sticky bomb may have been a crude weapon, dangerous to friend and foe alike. But in the hands of men like Major Wilson, Lieutenant Ashworth and Sergeant Macready, it became something more, a symbol of refusal to accept defeat, a demonstration that courage could overcome technical disadvantage, a reminder that in war, the human element remains decisive. German tank crews learned to fear that fabric-covered can, not because it was sophisticated, not because it was efficient, but because British soldiers were willing to carry it into battle, throw it at 50-ton tanks, and die if necessary to stop German armor. That willingness, more than any technical specification, made the sticky bomb a weapon that mattered. In the final analysis, a British engineer's sticky sock didn't change the war, but it changed specific battles. It destroyed specific tanks. It saved specific lives. And it demonstrated that sometimes the simplest weapons, employed with the greatest courage, can achieve the impossible. Major Robert Wilson, running toward a Tiger tank with a tin can in his hand, proved that truth on a hot July morning in Sicily. 3 Tigers destroyed in 1 hour, 6 sticky bombs, 3 extraordinarily brave men. That's how a crude weapon and uncommon courage changed a battle and demonstrated that in war the human factor remains supreme.